Yo, dude.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Good.
So I just to give you some clarification on how the format will go. Just because I know this is my first time coaching you, and I don't know if you've seen any of them before, but all it's super easy. All you got to do is just give me whatever it could be multiple, but I assume just try to give me like probably your best one for a replay that you want me to like the one that suits your play the most. It doesn't have to be one you played the best in. Um, and we'll talk about it. I'll break it down. We can easily talk about it for an hour, even if it's like a really short game. Uh, and then when I'm going through it with you, you can please feel free to interrupt me at like any point in time if there's something on your mind you want to ask. That you can definitely just speak your mind, and I'll stop talking if you start talking, and I'll try to like help you through it because I definitely want you to get the most out of it. And then yeah, I mean, I'll share, and then all you got to do is watch my screen on Discord. That way, you can actually see what I'm looking at. So when I'm talking about like something that's kind of vague where I'm like, you should put this here and that there, you'll actually see my mouse on the screen and like what I'm actually looking at, and it'll all make sense.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, sounds good.
All right. Fuck yeah, man.
Um, so I was gonna say, I think I played a ranked game yesterday. And it was because I definitely feel like my whole thing, especially like if someone tries to do some early whatever, like warp in Dark Templars or something, or like the whole Marauders, Marines coming out of a medevac, like I try not too much to let that distract me from the whole macro portion of it, but I do seem to lock up a little.
Yeah.
I did get a little. I have this one replay. I did get bullied a little, but I think I kind of just kept playing through. But let's see.
So, I can't remember. Can you remind me again the league we're talking about here as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is I guess gold 2,
Okay.
probably gold 3 once the
Sure.
pre-promotions. Do I just? Oh gosh,
If you're
I'm
not,
not very tech savvy.
if you're not sure how to do it, I can just let you know too. It's.
The Sharon folder.
Yeah. So, do you have is the replay like named a file, or is it just like fucking like ancient cistern 17? Like, because if you
I just renamed it number. I just renamed it number 1.
okay, so
I think I sent it to you on Discord, but that's probably the least.
you make sure like you'll have to like actually like send it with like hitting enter like any other message,
Yeah.
or it won't go through. And then if you have like a problem finding the right file or like the correct thing, no, I see it. You got it. You're good. Good job.
Hey,
Well done.
thank you.
Okay,
See if
I
I
will.
can find
I'll share my screen with you on Discord. It's loading right now. And then now you'll be able to see what I see with like real time, so you don't have to watch the stream where it's all delayed and shit. Because like
Oh,
even though
perfect.
even though I don't run stream delay, there's always an inherent delay on streams by like 5 seconds,
Yeah.
regardless. So now you get a real time thing where I'm like, you don't have to kind of backtrack every time I talk about everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are in this game. Your ID is Dan, or are you?
No, I am the Forbidden Glizzy.
Okay, hell yeah, dude. Okay, so
I don't, it was that what was it? It was that vine of that kid who was like the Forbidden Glizzy, and I think he ate like some reeds
I
that grow
don't.
by the water, and it
I
just
don't.
expands.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Uh, okay, so gold TvT. Are you doing like your own thing, or are you doing like B2GM stuff?
So I saw your 2019 B2GM, and I really liked the idea that you actually quoted, I think, in your like one of your 21 videos, that as far as brain dead A clicking, Thor's Hellbats.
Yeah.
So that's something I kind of have been working on, just
Okay.
rushing, getting out, expanding,
Yeah.
and then trying to get factories and everything.
Okay. So definitely the. I'll pause it and just say, you don't have to do exactly what I do in B2GM to like. It's not like the only thing you can do, but as long as your build has a level of efficiency to it, it'll work. So if your composition, like your desired way you want to play it out, is Thor Hellbat, that's great. That's definitely gonna. I would say that's probably your easiest road to Diamond from where you are right now. Once you're in Diamond, though, you definitely are gonna have to like rethink what you're doing a bit more because Diamond players will kind of start stomping that.
I was gonna
Uh,
say I played one this morning, and I think he saw that, and it was Marauders, Marines,
even then,
Medevacs.
even it's not even necessarily just about composition. It's about that Thor Hellbat and just going just Thor Hellbat doesn't really have like a lot of flexibility versus a player that actually knows what they're doing. It's just really good at like it's really good at executing the part of the game where if you just have efficient gameplay, it steamrolls everybody that does not have that. So as long as your build is efficient and your core level decision making of like where am I gonna like how long am I gonna wait to attack and where am I going to attack at, like as long as those things are like good together, you'll have like a much better fucking outcome of a lot of your games. So we're gonna talk a lot about your build probably. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly what I was doing, but as long as it makes sense, that's fine. And one of the things that makes the most sense is if you're not going to like, this is something we'll harken back to throughout this coaching lesson right now, but as long as your build does not have a mismatch in terms of when you attack to when you're on defense, then it's fine. And the best way to explain that to make it not be confusing is if your build is going to build up supply, you need to be expanding at a quick pace. And if your build is going to do a timing attack and then, you know, maybe play a game after that, you should not be expanding while going for a timing attack based on when you want it to happen. So like there's 2 base timing attacks, there's 3 base timing attacks, there's 1 base timing attacks. There's all kinds of timing attacks you can do. So we'll see how you play this game. And if you do like an attack, for instance, and at the same time you're attacking, you're like trying to fucking expand, but you commit to an attack and it like makes no sense because you could have had a bigger army in some way. And, it, you know, we'll talk about that kind of shit too if it happens. But realistically, if you don't expand quickly, but you still play passively defensive passive map control, you definitely should be expanding. That's just... It's the biggest problem with people is they don't expand fast enough when they try to play macro styles. Yeah. So far your build looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You're going for a gas after racks, which incentivizes you to expand, which is great. If you wanted to go for gas before racks, you could definitely get a super quick factory, but that incentivizes aggression. And I think if you're going to play a style that's going to go super macro heavy like Thor Hellbat, definitely want to prioritize expansions. So again, your build right now looks great. Do you prioritize making Reapers, or do you like? Do you usually skip the Reapers part?
I just for the purposes of, because what, 2 weeks ago I was early bronze, and so the basics of like really focusing on that macro and just having that economy.
Yeah.
To constantly fight, I did see how quickly I was able to kind of jump up quite a few.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to get into. So this is I think from last week or.
I want to recommend something to you. Okay.
Sure.
This will help a lot because you're going to struggle with this if you don't do this. But if you want to focus on Reaper, it will kind of like change the early game for you a little bit. And I would say if you want to, in TvT, going Thor Hellbat might not be as effective as it is as in TvZ. It's by far the best. And then in TvP, it's okay. In TvT, it might be probably, I would say, the weakest for just that composition. But if you want to make your life easier in TvT, what I think you should do is you should actually build your command center on the high ground. And I actually think you should like wall off your command center to your barracks. Like you know, instead of building a third depot for now, have like your command center like there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can see my green box, right? Just to make sure you see
yes.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, like there would be your command center. So you just get it faster, like walling off your base faster, and you make marine instead, so you can get a faster factory. And then you would memorize every map's Reaper jump spot. So like this map, you can't jump up a Reaper on the south side, but the south side also doesn't matter because it's your natural. As long as you can't jump up here is the big one, and a Reaper definitely can't jump up there. And a Reaper can jump up there though, so that is from there to there, and then from there to there, like anywhere up here with this like border. So what I would say you would want to do then is you'd want to camp your make marine and just camp this fucking side. You literally just
get the vision.
Yeah, it will not only just to get the vision, but a Reaper will kill a marine if they both have equal chance. Like if they're both just like running at each other and they start fighting, a Reaper will kill a marine, like barely, and then it runs away and it regens, and it could kill another marine and it runs away and regens. But if you have a marine sitting here at the top and you shoot him as he jumps there, and you get like shot, and you shoot him like 4 times before he's actually on the high ground, then a marine actually kills a Reaper. The only problem would be he could theoretically run past you and run in through your base and like start regenning behind your mineral line and become a problem again, and you don't want that. So I would say your second, like on maps where like you can wall off your command center to your barracks, and then you're good to go. You'd want to maybe put another depot on the side of the command center. So, or to be fair, don't do that yet, because I'll explain that in a second why I just said that. But what you'd probably want to do with like your second depot is like start walling off the ramp, like put a depot there, and then put like another depot there.
The supply depot.
Exactly. So like you would start like making it to you restrict his movement, so in a way to where you make it to where your Marines have more uptime to shoot his ass. So if you restrict this, and then you restrict that right next to it with a depot, you make the Reaper has to go south before it goes north. It can't just go north, which means if your Marine stands like right there, for instance, you can shoot him, or like maybe like right there, for instance, you can shoot him as he goes on the low ground, the medium ground right there, and then he has to jump south to then go past you. So it's more likely you're going to kill his ass. And if a lot of times what's going to happen is a Reaper will jump up and jump right back down if you're shooting him anyways. Most people will respect that. But if you make 2 Marines, suddenly now you can kill a Reaper pretty fucking fast. And what I was saying about the command center a second ago is a command center is weird in this game. Just the same thing works as like a Nexus and a hatchery. It's just a lot of times you don't see hatcheries and you don't see Nexus and hatchery used the same way command centers are, because you don't wall with those most of the time because you can't move them, but Terran can because of liftoff. But the point I'm trying to make is with the command center, if you build it where the corner of the building is like that, like it's like the command center is like this and the corner touches like that, that's actually not a wall. The command center, it's weird. It's a 5x5 grid building. And do you like, just to make sure I'm not going to make this super confusing, I assume, or do you understand the build grid and like the 5x5?
Yeah, I have the grid activated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you need to do for a command center to actually wall a building is it needs to have 2 out of 5 grid spots that are together touching a wall. So like you have to have, and right now you're only having 1. Like it's like the one bottom right. It's like the 25th block in the bottom right is only the one touching. But you need to have like the 2 touching on the bottom, or the 2 touching on the bottom, like the bottom or the right side, if that makes sense. So yeah. And if you have that, that's when it's actually a wall. That's why I was saying if you had a command center here, if you don't put a depot right there next to it, because the depot does block to the corner. Like here, for instance, that's actually a wall with the depot you already have. But since the command center doesn't, you would want a depot to finish that off. But then I was saying, realistically, if your Marine is standing here, your Marine could also cover the side of the command center if the Reaper comes this way. So it covers both, which is great. That's why I was saying if you put depots here, you create like a bottleneck where your Marines can cover both sides, which is really, and you can do that on probably a lot of maps. And if you can't do that on certain maps, then you just want to make sure that your command center, if possible, is on the maybe like instead of putting your barracks where your barracks is, put your command center there, and then put your barracks on the side, because a barracks does wall to the corner. Does that mean, you could actually make that part of your new build, literally.
Interesting.
So barracks would be there, command center would be there in the middle, because a command center doesn't have that problem anymore, because then it's against the depots with 2 grid spots, and you're good to go. Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about this at all. Like that's actually the perfect answer for you. Like that for the ramp at least. And then for the other like cliff spot, start building the second and third depot there, just to like maybe even all depots around it if you want to have it fully walled off for anti-Reaper. But if you do it this way, and you because by the time you actually lift off the command center, at that point you'll have a lot more stuff. You'll probably already have a factory done too, and you can like maybe have your barracks start building an add-on, and you can swap, like let's say you have a barracks right there, right, and you build like you move it in a way where you can build an add-on, so maybe now it's like right there, and you have your factory building above it. Then you just like suddenly when you do a swap, like let's say you lift off your command center, your factory, and your barracks all 3 at once, you can move the command center down, you can move the factory to the add-on, and you can move the barracks to where the command center was.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Like that would just be like you fix the wall, and then if there's a gap, if there's like a slight gap based on how you built it, you could just fill it in with a depot. It wouldn't really matter, because the whole point is, early game you just don't want to deal with Reapers if you play this way, because if you do deal with Reapers, it's going to set you so far behind. Once you actually start making something out of the factory, you're totally safe. Like nothing matters anymore, and you're good to go. And I would highly recommend the first unit you make out of the factory would be like a Cyclone. just because it helps with banshees, it helps with ravens, it helps with Hellion attack, Reaper, like anything really. It just and it also is good at chasing. So if you do get harassed, you can punish it and kill it usually.
Slow it down.
Yeah, and then you can make like Thor Hellion behind that or something. But yeah, if you do this for your opener, it would help a lot. Just throwing it out there because I can already see if you don't make a Reaper, you're gonna fucking play people who make a Reaper, and you're gonna hate your life. You're gonna be like, okay, this.
No,
game fucking...
I'm definitely that was one of my things because then at the very least now I have a Reaper for scouting as well.
Yeah. And if you don't, the best way I would say you should do this is because you're not gonna make a Reaper yourself to scout him. You make a Cyclone first to be safe and be okay. But as soon as you make your second factory that does not have a tech lab, like a reactor factory, essentially, you just make Hellions out of that, and then one of your first Hellions that you make, just go scout with it. Just go figure out what the fuck's going on. Be like, okay, how many bases do you have? Figure that out first, because if you just go up his natural ramp, you might like run into a siege tank or something, or an enemy cyclone, and you might just die. So if you're like, do you have a third? Do you have a third? I don't know. And then you could figure that out. Another thing you could do, legit, playing this way, okay, because you're going to have a high mineral build. This is getting cheeky. I actually don't think this is the worst idea. You can make it part of your build to where after you make a command center, you take one SCV and you run away. Or, I mean, you could also just scout with an SCV too, right? Like when you make a barracks, go scout with an SCV. That's also something you could totally do. But what you could do with that SCV as well, let's say you do that, right? You scout with an SCV. That's a great way to do it just before a Reaper even could exist. And you're like, is he opening up proxy or is he like standard me? Is he playing standard? And when you leave his base, don't go home with that SCV. Instead, go to like his like here on the map. Like there's his main. Here's his natural. You just like run down the ramp and run like further out to like the edge of the map on the side of his main. And build a fucking barracks. And float that shit into his base. And use that to scout. Not even kidding, that would actually be a great idea for you. Because he's not gonna kill it before you see what's going on. And then you could react in a way where you could be like, oh fuck, I need missile turrets. Or oh, I need I need something. I need a bunker. I need to play extra defensive. Or if you're like, oh, there's a third command center. He's got a second command center. And you're like, cool, I can be greedy. I don't need to worry about shit now. And believe it or not, that barracks is actually cheaper than scanning. Because number one, you'll see more of his base with the barracks than you would with the scan. And number two, a mule and a scan have the same energy cost. And a mule gives you more money than a barracks cost. A mule gives you like 240 or something.
I have that heart, especially when I'm playing against Protoss, because I do see a trend of like at a certain point towards the mid, or I've at least experienced a lot of people go like Dark Templars. So like trading off, like, man, do I really want to drop like 3 mules, but now I got to save my scans because in the past I'm just like, okay, cool. Now I need to build a couple missile turrets so I can start getting vision. But at the same time, it's like, I got a couple, low-level Thors or whatever, and the Dark Templars, I mean, if you can't see them, they just jack it up.
Exactly, yeah. Like, if something like that happens and you just don't know, you'll definitely die. Oh, well, I'm fucking dead.
I was gonna say there was another replay I sent you, I think, where it was going pretty good, and then he like warped in like I think like 3 or 4 Dark Templars. So okay. I scanned and I just A-clicked my army up onto my base, and then I scanned, but then the scans ran out.
Yeah.
I was like, because I had just dropped I think a few mules, and I was like, okay, well, damn.
Yeah, that's exactly. It sucks ass when that happens. So, I think the barracks thing, like scouting. So like when you make your first barracks, the next SCV that pops out of the command center, just rally it towards his natural area, and go scout with that, because what that'll do is your SCV will always arrive at his base before 2 minutes. It'll always get there by around like 1:45 roughly. And it'll tell you guaranteed 2 things: what he's doing as an opener without your SCV dying. So you'll get to see like, is he playing greedy or is he playing aggressive? Is he playing standard? You'll see that. And also you'll see where he puts it. So if you see like nothing, then you're like, oh, fuck, proxy possibly, right? And you're like, oh, there's nothing in his base, and now I'm more worried. There's like just a depot.
Versus if I did that once. So I think I typically send out. I was doing everything kind of based off the like supply. So
sure.
if I like the 18th supplied SCV that came out, I would send that to scout, and I
Yeah.
think I went and the dude was already working on like his fourth barracks.
Okay.
So I
So
was just like pucker up and made more sieges.
yeah, and I would say a great way for you to deal with someone who like does proxy you, just throwing it out there, would be the second you realize you're getting proxied, don't build a command center on the low ground. Instead, build it on the high ground, like below your
High
main
ground.
CC or something. So it's not
Yep.
against the wall, because you also don't want him to have vision and then somehow be able to kill it. If you don't
Yeah,
have
I
anything
think I
there.
think later in this game, or so I did like that idea of just building them and floating them down because
Yeah.
it's a lot safer, and I know my army's there. So I was able to just, gosh, what was it? I had it built up on the high ground next to my main base, and then after he kind of sent in medevacs and marines later in
Okay.
this match, I was just like trying to focus more on getting back to the worker count and everything. So I
Yeah.
took it and I just floated it down south, not to like that kind of like natural third base, but a little bit
Yeah.
farther down, and
Yeah.
just kind of kept trying to build.
Yeah. Um,
I
no,
mean,
for
you'll
sure.
see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I would say if you actually, let's just say you do get proxied, like in general, a great way
Mhm.
to counter that would be like maybe put a bunker at the jump spot in case it's mass reapers, and then put another bunker at your blocked off doorway. Just two bunkers. Just stay on one racks. Don't even go above
Yeah.
one racks. Because I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make when they get proxied is they think, oh, I'm gonna make like 3 racks now to like keep up with that, but it's like it's already too late for that. You're never gonna fucking finish those barracks. You're just gonna die.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you could just play your game of like going factory, maybe making like 2 tanks, and then push down and force your natural to be taken, so you can leapfrog your tanks forward and shit, and then have other units to support it, like more the Hellion, Thor, or whatever. Anyways, so you have an idea for an opener, which is great. That's definitely, I think that's gonna help you a lot in the
Yeah.
future. I would say you don't need to use that opener against Zerg at all. You could place like I think Zerg is definitely the most vulnerable one to Terran. If you want to make a Reaper against Zerg, you're totally fine to do that. Or if you want to open Hellions really fast, you're totally fine to do that. But against Protoss, might be a good idea to adopt this style too. We just talked about, like how you would do it against Terran, simply
Yeah.
because Protoss has so many fucking options for openers like DTs, Void Rays, fucking Mass Adepts, Charge Lots, blah blah blah, Warp Prism play. And then also you would protect you from the Adept, just like it protects you from the Reaper. Again, you don't need to worry about walling the ramp, though, against Protoss. But if you do the doorway, like we talked about, suddenly now it's really hard for Protoss to like get in your base and cannon rush you. And it's also
Yeah.
really hard for Protoss to...
Typically when I play Protoss, just because I mean, especially on the lower leagues, it's such a common thing where it's like, oh, I know how to cannon rush really well, so
yeah.
people cannon rush. So as soon as like I see a probe come in and it starts heading to like the unseen areas because I can't really have vision on those corners,
Okay.
I'll send an SCV just to follow it,
Yeah.
just to make sure he's not dropping anything, because it frustrates me just a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, once you get a factory and a siege tank out,
Yeah, I would say
I'm
from
not
from now on, just my advice. Okay, you don't have to do this if it makes you uncomfortable, but my
sure.
advice would be the only fog you should actually worry about following the probe in is this fog right here. You should not worry about following him in this fog,
Yeah.
because the reason why is because as long as he's not in your base, and as long as you have 3 buildings in the front of your base, he physically can't attack you unless he sees up the ramp. So like
He sends a probe like
exactly.
halfway.
So you could just have a Marine not try to kill the cannons. Who gives a fuck about the cannons? Just have a Marine guard the fucking ramp. And if you're really worried, if you're like, oh god, oh wait, whoa, 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 he's gonna fucking. What if like he puts cannons there now, and you're like, well, okay, those are building, and his probe ran away. Just build a bunker. Like lift off the barracks and build a bunker right there, or build a bunker on the side of the depot. That also would be fine. If you really need to make more Marines right this second, and that's like your only racks, which it will be, you could also put a bunker like right there. Because what would happen is obviously if a bunker gets shot by a cannon, it can be repaired. It's not going to die. But if a Marine gets shot by a cannon, it's going to die in 3 hits, which
Yeah.
could actually kill your Marine if a probe is like going back and forth trying to just get little vision spurts. So yeah, just build if the Protoss builds cannons and just waits, just react to that by building a bunker and call it a day, and let him build as many cannons as you want. Because if he builds like 8 cannons down there, which a lot of players tend to do
A
shit like
lot
that,
of minerals.
just fuck exactly. You're like, I'll kill all of that with a fucking tank, and I'll just build my command center anyways, and I'll just lift off when I'm done killing your cannons. Because if you chase the probe around with SCVs, like you're definitely wasting money, time, and shit like that.
I had a game I think on my going into my gold after Silver 1, where he like fully like I think he had like 9 cannons, and then by then I got two sieges out, and I just kind of frogged them up,
Yeah.
and it was just like, damn, that was all of my like. He wasn't.
Yeah, no,
I
exactly.
went back and watched the replay, and he didn't build like a single. He was. It was the whole.
Yeah, he's
Because you
like,
do
I
it a lot
was.
in your bronze grandmaster. Like his production just stopped, except for
Uh-huh.
building cannons in my base,
Yeah.
and I was just I was already working on I think like a third base.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like a lot of people, if they don't realize this is like if you can just counter it by literally not letting it in your base and not, like again if that's there you got to use SCVs, but if it's like
Yeah.
if it's there just let it happen. Be like okay, I just won't give you high ground vision. That is the most OP thing about a ramp always being at your main base is that you can fuck over all kinds of proxy rushes if you just don't let them have high ground vision. And that's like if a zealot's there or a probe is there, as long as you have a bunker, a cannon can shoot your bunker fucking 8 times, 10 times, and whatever's on the ramp is going to die first.
Yeah.
To the Marines in a bunker. So going back to your build now, the one thing I would say that you need to do that's a little different than what you did do is 100% try to always gauge the barracks finishing because right now it's perfect. But this SCV needs to not be an SCV. It definitely needs to be a orbital command. That is
For an orbital.
it's by far the most important thing that you need to make sure you don't fuck up for Terran. Because an orbital is the access to stacking mining. It's because a mule and an SCV can mine the same patch at the same exact time.
Yeah.
And every second that goes by, you're obviously not generating energy for more mules if you delay that. So that will it's massive if you delay that.
So I think it just kind of formed a habit now after so many games of like so command center then orbital. But I mean, definitely I can see why swapping them because getting the mule is.
Oh no,
very
for sure.
nice.
Yeah, no, I would say you should put the orbital, like if
And then
oh, go ahead,
typically
sorry.
I was gonna say is typically as soon as my second command center's done, that goes straight into an orbital as well before it starts building SCVs.
So I would. This is what the way best way I describe it. I would say, if like a probe comes to your base and makes your SCV stop building a barracks, and it like delays you a little bit for whatever reason, because you're like don't want to lose the SCV, and you have like or like a some type of a scout, another SCV pokes your SCV. If anything delays you and now it's off time, I think it's you're gonna get a few more SCVs out, and maybe you do command center before orbital. However, if the barracks is on time, it's perfect, nothing's wrong with it. You should always orbital before expanding. Genuinely.
Understood. I like it.
And then
Makes
and,
sense.
yeah.
It kind of makes sense anyway.
Because yeah, that is so it's just value. And if you've ever like for instance, if I have ever gone command center before orbital, and I never had anything like disrupting me, it's just that's like a lazy fucking move. It's not actually great. I would highly recommend. Like also another way you could argue that orbital after expanding is okay is if you don't take your gas. Like if you just have excess minerals, then you could just be like, well, I have 400 and I'm not even close to making like time wise to making my orbital yet. Then obviously that's fine too. But if it's matching up at the same time, definitely orbital first. And then another thing too is this add-on for your barracks. Definitely do not skip Marines, and I would say do not make the add-on until you start making the factory. So like factory first before add-on.
And then because I can still swap it. Yeah, I think I don't. I didn't do it this game, but I have started. I think I build like 1 or 2 Marines just to have 1 or 2 Marines.
Yeah. Well, it's like a multi-purpose thing too, because number one, you guard yourself with Marines, which is great, which we talked about how to do with the Reaper and stuff like that. But another one is add-ons cost gas, and add-ons build faster than factories. So if you actually build factory first, you will mine enough gas right after you build the factory to then be able to build the add-on, and you'll still finish the add-on before the factory or at the same time if it's a reactor. But if you build add-on first, you'll finish the add-on way faster, and then you start the factory super late. Exactly, and it just sits there. Exactly.
I noticed that trend, and I just wasn't stopping myself from doing it.
Sure.
Because I'll go to like, well, there's 25 my gas that I was going to need for the factory.
Yeah. Okay, you got the factory.
They never expect the lift and put down.
Yeah, no, I was.
Yeah, and so it was exactly like you said. So I didn't have the gas, and I had to wait on the factory.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I guess now I'll pump out 2 Marines.
Yeah. So yeah, order operations could be a little different there, and it would just be more efficient. So factory always first for sure, and then you could make your second gas after you start the factory, kind of like what you did. So that was not bad. Then orbital again immediately. Perfect. Good shit. And I would say, just for a general rule of thumb, again, if you're scouting, like we talked about the SCV, and like you could build a barracks, a proxy if you want to. If you spot something that looks like it's not as economical as you, always build a bunker while you're building the net. Like if you build on the low ground, build a bunker while building the command center if you're expecting aggression. But to be fair, if you're expecting aggression, probably don't build on the low ground in the first place. But as a general rule of thumb, to make your life easier, as soon as you actually get a command center done and it's like here now, let's say you lift it and land it down and now it's landed, build a bunker in front of your natural. If you don't see a really greedy opener, because again, what this build is it's very vulnerable early. And there will be lots of games where someone will do like oh, I'm going to do like 3 Reapers and harass you. Or I'm going to make a Reaper Hellion and harass you. I'm going to make Hellions and harass you. And if you don't have a bunker, the amount of SCV damage you're about to take, if that does happen, is just, it's game-ending damage. So, and then you can always salvage the bunker later too if you want to. But a bunker's not going to make or break your bank account that much at this stage.
You can. I always forget you can salvage bunkers.
Yeah.
That's another very interesting concept that underrated. Yeah, no, because I think I have like a lot of games were not necessarily lost, but had been made harder and lost because I only had a couple Marines in a siege, and then I kind of start building like a wall at the natural with an SCV and supply depots versus like I could just have a bunker with a couple Marines in there and they're going to do plenty of work.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like if you have a bunker there, it'll keep you absolutely safe until your tank gets out or more shit gets out of your factory. Another thing too that you should do 100% is use this barracks for add-on creation. I don't know if it's going to, but if you do it, the only reason why I'm mentioning it is because you're going so far away from the factory. This barracks should be like right there right now, and it should be building a reactor right there right now. Because if you build a factory first, factory has a 43-second build timer, and a reactor has a 36-second build timer. So you can always start factory first, reactor after, and you'll always have it finish like the same time. But if you build this factory right now and then build a reactor off of this factory, you basically could have had about 4 Hellions in that time that you built the reactor, because a Hellion is a 21-second build time, and you can make 2 at a time, right? So in 40,
a double swap.
Yeah, in 40, like in 42 seconds, you could have made 4 Hellions, and it takes 30. It's like a 5-second difference to make a reactor. So that's a huge difference too. Like if you, oh my god, I'm getting rushed by something, Zerglings, Marines, Zealots, whatever, Adepts. Those Hellions would have fucking helped so much if that ends up being the case. Also, it gives you tools to harass too. So like that increases your scout. If you really go, oh, this guy's playing greedy, I can now take 4 Hellions and go run into his mineral line and just kill. Now I'm game-ending damage. I'm doing game-ending damage to him now by killing off 10 workers on the natural or something like that.
Yeah.
I would definitely say be very careful about that shit right there. I know it's yeah, exactly. I know it's tempting, but instead of doing this, you can almost afford a command center. Like
100.
Yeah, like it's fucking, like for instance, if you did not make this armory when you made it, like I'm just hypothetically, okay?
Yeah.
If you didn't make this armory and you didn't queue up 3 of these things, that's 450 resources right there, and that could have been a command center, and then you could have made it or an armory 4 seconds later, 5 seconds later.
Yeah, I'm like, I've gotten decent at getting that first base out, whether it's on the high ground and moving it or just putting it straight at the natural. But then like when it's time to come for the third, it's like, well, I'll just wait until I'm completely fully saturated, but then now I have to wait the whole 70 seconds to get the command center built.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's I would definitely say that's like a big thing too. And another thing too about like what I was saying earlier too that I think will really help you is I think you're definitely on this priority of you want to get Thor really fast, right? Because that's why you're making the army so fast. That's this you could absolutely delay the structure if you're just okay making the cyclone. Because the first Thor and the first cyclone, I would arguably say a cyclone does the job better than a Thor does. The only reason why I did not recommend that in B2GM for people to do that is because it's distracting. Because people will be like, I got a micro? Fuck. Like, oh, dude, I can't do that. But, like, if you just, like, move it to the direction and you just maybe look at it for a second, like, while it's in combat, and you're like, okay, let's, like, not just let it suicide. Maybe, like, try to like actually utilize its like lock on and like stay at a range a little bit. If
Yeah.
it's like a Banshee or a Void Ray, for instance, so you don't just like A move into it and die, because the Thor is literally A move and just forget about it. But a Cyclone, if you just are willing to micro it a little bit in case aggression does happen, and that would be microing for maybe 6 seconds total, then you'll be fine. And I think it would put a lot less stress on your opener, because this armory, the only thing it actually unlocks for you is the Thor. And then that would just give you a lot more breathing room to not always have to, because again, like the big thing too is you're building a build right now that is, again, B2GM, which was fuck scouting. We don't need to scout. It's irrelevant. And I will say right now, if you don't want to scout, you can keep playing like this, and it's totally fine, because the trade-off is you're not sacrificing money to build a barracks and scout his base. You're not sacrificing money to run an SCV across the map. And that's like where you're getting extra money to be able to afford shit like this from. Like, because the economy develops like a lot faster if you don't waste one of your first 15 SCVs to go fucking scout.
Yeah.
So if you want to play like that, again, that you can play like that. It is more blind, so you will probably need to then create shit quicker because you don't know. But if you do want to get in the habit of scouting a little bit and try to react to builds and go, oh, he's playing economical, or oh, he's playing aggressive, this is more suited towards aggressive reaction, not super suited towards an economical reaction. So like, for instance, this guy has barracks, factory, starport, and a one base. It doesn't matter that he has tech. It doesn't matter like in terms of like the fusion core. Obviously that means something, but like that's not like what means he's going to be aggressive. That just means what type of aggression it is. But the fact that he has a starport this fast with a fucking add-on and he has no natural, that is a massive commitment to aggression. So that alone would be like, oh, I scouted that. That is my natural, and that is his. So
yeah, he attacks. I think in a couple minutes.
No,
yeah. I think you can tell like he was kind of hoping that would have completely ruined me.
Yeah.
And I would have just like lost my mental and lost my focus.
Yeah. Well, the thing about StarCraft is it's a game of pacing for sure. And in StarCraft 2, if you do not build economy because instead you invest into aggression, which is appropriate, that is how it's supposed to go. You either pick economy or you pick aggression. If you go aggression and then you don't do damage, if like both armies attack each other and it resets, the person who focused on economy can recover from that at the rate of the worker that is there, the active worker count. So if I have 20 workers and I cut workers because I'm going to go aggressive now, I can get more. All that money I'm getting now is not being invested into economy to then give me more economy later. It's like a return, like an investment return thing. Instead, I'm like, I'm going to invest into military now to do damage to you now. And if that doesn't actually cripple the economy, but instead it just resets both your armies, you will just fucking outscale his army the next time you guys, like, so the next like 2 minutes after that, you'll have 3 times more than what he has, or twice as much as what he has, because you just have way more fucking money to spend. So these kinds of attacks that people do, if you defend it, they're fucked. Like that's where it's like, oh, they're all in, and now it didn't kill me. It didn't do enough damage, so they're just going to die now, because the next time he attacks, his attack is going to be like the same size again. But my army that defended it last time is going to be 3 times bigger now, because I have all this return investment on my economy that I was investing in while he did the first attack.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was another. I sent you another one as
Sure.
well. But so I play a lot of twos with my buddy because
Okay.
he was the one that kind of got me back into it.
Okay.
We forgot how much we loved the game, and it really is. It was just. I mean, the game I think lasted like 20 minutes, but it was just a war of attrition because
Yeah.
I mean I think they were like 3-4 bases. Me and my buddy were 3-4 bases, and it just kept going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only reason it kind of worked out was because my economy at no point was ever really affected. I just kind of kept powering through.
Yeah.
And I would send a bunch of Thor's Hellbats, clear out his brand new expansions, and then both of their armies would attack and kill all my Thors. But by the time my buddy was ready to attack, I was already remaxed.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like that. Yeah. If you understand the efficiency concept, you by bare minimum default, you're just Diamond League. Like that is the true nature of this game, and if anyone does not respect that to the point to where they just don't play efficient, doesn't mean like you can insert any unit in the list and you'll just win. You'll be like, oh, I fucking won doing this, I won doing that, this happened, and you always win because you just have more. Like for your opponent shows up to attack you, and you're literally fucking already 16 supply ahead after you just lost 8 units. Like, you are definitely ahead of this guy right now. So like, it's like one of these moments where it's like you can take damage right now and still be ahead, because this is effectively an all-in, and you can bounce back from damage you take here way faster than he can if he doesn't do the damage he's looking for. So long story short, biggest thing I want you to work on too is that everything we mentioned definitely relevant. Like, a big thing for you about how to like not die is obviously managing like your base and the correct layout, things we talked about for a while. Really big deal. Make sure your add-on creation is coming out of your barracks at an efficient rate for your factory, because like this factory, for instance, you made a factory, and then like it was idle for a while, and then you made a reactor on it. So this thing's been chilling for like 2 fucking minutes before it actually did anything. And then the barracks, for instance, you spent money on an add-on, and it's done nothing the entire time. And it's still sitting there with like a fucking barracks tech lab, and it's like ready to go for a factory. So just always understand the concept. Always make factory first and pair an add-on to it after. And you don't have to do barracks every single time. Like, once you have like factory 5, 6, 7, 8, who fucking cares? Like, at that point, just build the add-ons on the factories. But when it's your first like 3 factories and you're pacing them like 1 factory at a time, kind of, absolutely make reactors on your barracks, and tech. The first factory can make the tech lab like you did, and then always make like your reactors that you're going to make with this barracks, ideally, to just not waste that full 36-second interval every single time. And that is a huge deal. That's gonna definitely make or break your games a lot if you do or don't do that. Because that's such a big window of opportunity you give your opponent if you don't do that, where your barracks is gonna just do nothing. And then the last thing I would say about your opener is you definitely have a lot of moments where your command centers go idle, and you're building your factories are a little bit better, but I do see your command centers going idle a lot. After you get to a point where you have like 30 SCVs, you just kind of like start like going up and down with the production, because you're getting like more shits going on, right? Just really try to maintain that as best you can, and that'll definitely.
I think I noticed. I'll be like, instead of constantly having at least like 1 queued up, it'll be like, oh, I haven't built one in a few seconds. Let me queue up 6.
Yeah,
like that's gonna somehow make up for if I was just constantly being, because I actually just started messing around with Zerg a little bit.
Yeah.
And the constantly, whenever there's a larva available, constantly trying to build a drone.
No, it's good. Yeah, for Zerg
or something like that. It's
the best thing.
Zerg's fun.
No, that's why it's my main race. I love it. But the best thing I can recommend you to do is really get in the habit of eyeballing. Like you have a command center group, which I'm really happy you do, because if you didn't, I would recommend that to you. But always
checking for the white dots.
Yes, always have 2 at this stage. Have 2. Like when you're on fucking your first command center, you haven't even finished your natural yet. Always try to always have an SCV running, but you don't have to stack 2 the entire time. Like, try to time it to where you're like, okay, another SCV, so you can like not hiccup your build and not waste time for other things. But once you're on a point where you have, as soon as you start producing SCVs on multiple command centers, always have 2. And if you fuck it up a little bit and you're kind of bad at it, always have 3. Literally use it as like a leveling up process for yourself in terms of macro. Just always have a queue of it. Try not to have 5. That's like kind of, because I think that encourages you to like never look at it. You're like, 5, forget about it for fucking 2 minutes and come back later. That's really bad. But always try to get in the habit of like looking at it within at least once every 10 seconds. That should be your goal. So you're looking at it like at least 6 times a minute, and you just glance. Every time you have interchange it with the activities you're doing. Like, I'm going to build this. I'm going to build depot. I'm going to fucking make add-ons. Check SCVs. I'm going to saturate this mineral line. I'm going to rotate my rally point over here. Check SCVs. So again, like once every 10 seconds is at the bare minimum ideal. Once every like 5 seconds is probably going to be more ideal once you get really good. And then always, if you realize you're fucking it up when you go for 2 boxes, go for 3, and then practice that. And then once you're like really good at that, try leveling up your macro and go, okay, I'm going to go back to 2 boxes again. And if you just have 2 boxes perma until you're done making SCVs, like let's say you're like a Diamond League now, and you're like always going for 2 boxes once you're on at least 2 bases on every command center until you're at 80 SCVs, you're fucking perfect. Like the more SCVs you get, the harder it is to continue to maintain this, because more activities have to be managed. But macro should only take about 7 to 8 minutes every single game. Unless you're like this, where he's massively one base all-inning you, then obviously it's a different kind of game. Now it's all in defense. But in a general macro game, it should only take 7 to 8 minutes to macro in terms of your economy, and it should be done every time. And if you can't do that, it just means it's something you need to practice. And the best way to practice that is literally proper expansion timings, and the other one is proper SCV creation. So as long as you're not like, oh, I have 900 minerals, and I guess I'll make a command center. Like the shit like that's not happening. And also, as long as you're not letting command centers go idle, you'll have games where it's like, wow, I have fucking 47 SCVs and my opponent has 31. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's just because you're building SCVs properly. Okay, so you poke him, you attack.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying too much attention.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Again, I still think you're ahead right now. Like, if I was watching this game, and like if I was, let's say I'm sitting next to you, okay, and I'm like, all right, you just relax, you're fine. I'd be like, this guy still doesn't have a natural. You scanned it. He doesn't even have a fucking natural right now. So, and you have 3 command centers. You did not do that defense as well as you could have, but you're still okay. I would have said the next thing you should do that would make your life a little easier would be, okay, look at where his tanks are and just unsiege one tank. Just leave this tank at the natural maybe because it guards the natural wall. This tank is doing the same, like both of these tanks are guarding the natural wall. You're fine here. Maybe unsiege that tank right there and just move it up a little bit and siege just barely outside the range of his tanks. And you can clearly see where his tanks are because if you click a tank, you can see the little white perimeter, right? So you'd siege like there if that was like the enemy, whatever. And then you can then attack it again. And if his units try to defend the tank, your tank will kill whatever's in front, like the Marauder or a Marine, blah, blah, blah. Or you could unsiege your tank and the first attack you did, like unsiege 1 or 2 of your tanks and just attack in with the rest of your army. And once you're clearly in attack range, siege them. And then you would have won the fight that way too. That also would have worked. But if you don't use your tanks at all, it'll last longer. It'll be more annoying. And you're still ahead even though it's like that because this guy is very low eco.
I think those initial sieges are really just for if people ever want to come up the old-fashioned way, long way around.
Yeah.
And it's just I'd siege them and forget about them.
Yeah, no, then that's also something that like in an average macro game, that is fine. That'll work. But in a game where you're getting one base all in, that's why I think scouting is actually relevant, right? Because it mentally prepares you. Okay, I'm getting all in right now. I might need to relocate some tanks, right? I think that you definitely have to adopt the mindset of be willing to not move all your tanks, but be willing to move maybe a tank or 2 in your base in case your opponent all-ins you like this. And if you would have actually, let's say you did go for the barracks thing and you've scouted, oh, fuck, this guy's got 2 racks, 1 factory, and a starport, and he's like about to fucking drop my base, then you could maybe rotate like this tank, like move these tanks where it's like maybe both of these tanks unsiege. One siege is like right there. So it guards the front of the door and it also guards like the back of the mineral line. Maybe one other tank sieges like right there where like on the side of the command center. So it guards the front of your, like the top right of your base. It guards the top left of your base. It guards like a big chunk of your base. And then your last tank stays sieged right there. So instead of like really focusing on the front of your base, you focus on the circumference of your base. Like the whole radius of your base. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, because again, you're dealing with like someone who's going for a tank-based build, so in medevacs on one base.
Well, and I realized the fight kind of started to turn, so I took all my SCVs and I just kind of sent them up, and because I knew as soon as they were done, I was going to want to send them back.
Exactly. That's totally fine. I approve of your decision to pull the boys, because you dealt with it, you got rid of it. Even if you lost SCVs, because you didn't, but even if you did lose SCVs below his number, you can make 3 at a time as opposed to 1 at a time, and you would bounce back so fucking fast. And as long as you get rid of it and go back to production, that's what matters. And now you're back on production, so you're like full fucking speed ahead again. And that's definitely what needs to happen as fast as possible. Okay, so like right here, for instance, I would highly recommend, again, rotating a tank. Like, so again, you could have like one tank, maybe unsiege this tank, and now put it down here. Because this base is super exposed, and it's very, very open.
Yeah.
And a good tip, too, that I would give you is maybe get in the habit when you're fighting a one base all inning kind of player, like someone who's hyper aggressive, and you're like, Jesus, this guy loves attacking.
Yeah.
If you're gonna expand like this, maybe have one SCV, build a depot like right there, build one depot like right there, build one, then have that
early
SCV,
vision.
yeah, and then have it move up here now, build one depot right there, and have a depot built like right there, just so that if this guy wants to do some fucking attack to you, you have a warning where it's like, oh, I lost 100 mineral structure to now relocate my entire army to fuck you up, instead of being like, oh shit, he's sieged here and now he's farming my third base and I can't go down a ramp because he's like got 4 tanks there. Do you know what I mean? Like it would just create like your army would just be in position for low cost. And also if he doesn't attack you, you're just getting free supply. You're like, oh nice, I need to make supply depots anyways. It's a great way to play against people who are like super aggressive, because it just gives you warning. But yeah, now at this stage, the way the game is developed, I definitely think you can just literally make units and you're just going to win, because you're just going to, like, you don't have to micro at all. You're just going to be like, oh, he's attacking me again. I A-move and he dies.
And then, like, part of me wants to do, like, the one where it's like, okay, I won that fight. Now I just take my army and send it over to his.
That makes...
Why do that if I know that I'm probably out macro?
Yeah,
like,
that
I think I scanned and I was like, I'm definitely doing this economically a little bit better than him, so I'm just gonna I'll race him to 200.
The only that's going to 200 is definitely the safer option, but I would say for a fact that you were ahead earlier on when you scanned and you had a natural and he doesn't even have a base there. That's definitely like good for you, but the only problem is, this is the problem that lower level player, like a lower level player sometimes gets overwhelmed by, is timing matters when it comes to expansions, which is why scouting is actually good, and it's why scouting is something that happens more than one time when you get higher level at this game. You scout continuously throughout the game, and knowing when he takes a base compared to when you take a base is relevant. And if you don't know that, you don't actually know exactly who's ahead or who's not ahead all the time. And then on top of that, if you don't know if he has a third right now, like for instance, what if this guy took that as his natural because he's fucking weird? And he's like trying to metagame you because he's like, well, he'll scan my natural and think I'm on one base when I'm really on 2 bases. And then this is actually my third base. Or what if instead of taking this base, he took like a fucking ninja base, right? And you're like, you don't know about it. Like, there are things in this game that make sense and things in this game that don't make sense. Like, you could argue, okay, I went for fast factories. And by the time I started making my first factory units, he already dropped my base with medevacs, which means he made a really fucking fast starport. So then you could argue the only way that's physically possible is he double gas opened her, whereas I one gas opened her. Like, you know, like before, because you're on one gas.
Getting a glimpse to see that.
Yeah, like so if you can just tell for a fact based on time, his tech is faster than yours, and your tech was standard. Like your tech isn't like super slow. Your tech is standard. Then you can go, okay, well, my tech is standard for playing a macro game, and his tech is fast compared to that. So he's clearly playing an all-in game of low economy. He's delaying command centers. Then you can go, okay, yeah, no, I know I'm ahead. Like, that makes sense logically, time-wise. But if he doesn't attack you, and let's say this guy does not attack you, and you don't see his army, you just see he didn't have a natural. That doesn't actually mean you're ahead, necessarily, because he could have a base somewhere else. That's why it's really relevant to what I was saying earlier, where it's like if you have a Hellion, not in Hellbat mode, but in actual like Hellion mode, just like drive around the map and go, okay, do you have any fucking bases? And let's maybe scout your natural. Like scout do you have a third right now? Like where is your fucking bases? And if you see nothing, then you can confirm without a doubt, okay, yeah, there's physically no other mineral patches on this map that are being mined right now besides that, like his main base. And that means I'm clearly ahead right now because I've been mining my natural for the last 4 minutes or 3 minutes, and he doesn't even have a natural yet. But then that means like, oh, where are the battlecruisers? Where's the big drops? Where's the army that's gonna attack me? And you already did get attacked. So if that happens, if you defend an attack and you have more bases guaranteed, yeah, you're super far ahead. And I would say it only makes sense to attack if you're ready to attack as a counterattack. So if your investment, then this is a concept that matters a lot. Okay, so if I would say definitely don't forget this for your future games and when you get put in situations like this. If your current investment is economy, you should not counterattack. And when you got attacked, your investment was economy. You were making units. That's very, very understandable that you're making units. But you're making fucking command centers. You're making SCVs. you're making economy. That is not the time to go, let's launch a counterattack. Because if you do that, you're going to have a weak counterattack, and you might lose your army, and then you put yourself in a spot where you can lose the game. However, if you're in a position where you get attacked, and your focus is making army, that is the time to counterattack. Because you're going to have a juicy fucking army, and that you can now launch a counterattack with, and your focus is army. So you can reinforce that, and worst case scenario, you can remake that for future defense if the attack doesn't ultimately kill your opponent. Like, it's not going to put pressure on you. The only one fringe circumstance that it would obviously not make sense to counterattack would be if you got attacked and your focus was making army, but you traded out your whole fucking army with him, and like you lost everything, and now like one Thor and 2 Hellions are there. I would not be like, go attack him with that. Like, you lost everything, he lost everything, just remake. You know what I mean? Because it's like you don't have enough at that point. So hopefully that makes sense. But
no, it does.
yeah. But yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna speed it up now to finish it off, so we can look at something else really fast. But your build overall is okay. Definitely the things we talked about are super relevant. The way you're developing right now is fine. I kind of just want to see like where this kind of goes. In my personal opinion, for your gameplay right now, I do think you're a little too. Again, this comes back to what I said earlier, right? You're gonna max out soon, and your SCV count's 65.
Still low.
Like you're definitely missing the beat on the macro side of it a bit, because you're just not keeping up with the SCV count. Because again, always if you ever look at any of your games in the future, ever, okay, you should always be done macroing at 7 to 8 minutes. It's somewhere in that time frame. Like, your macro should be like, again, we're talking about the economy development side of it. We're not talking about maxing out. We're talking about making your SCV count be like in the realm of like 70 to 80. Like, you're basically about to finish. If not, you're done. Between 7 and 8 minutes is when that should always be wrapping up. And if you get attacked and you're like, oh fuck, like he attacked my base, you could honestly math it out if you're a math guy, and you could be like, okay, he attacked my base and I lost 8 SCVs. And this was at a point when I had 3 command centers. And let's say you lifted off your command center for 30 seconds, okay? Because like you're like, I don't want it to die, lift it off. You could be like, okay, well, realistically, I lost 8 SCVs and I couldn't make SCVs out of my third base for 30 seconds. How long would it have taken me, we'll just say the soft cap is 8 minutes. How long would it have taken me to hit 80 SCVs by 8 minutes with this attack included? And you could be like, okay, so normally I'm supposed to hit it in 8 minutes, but now I'm delayed because I lost 8 SCVs. So that now is 12 seconds per SCV, and it's going to take, for me to be on 2 bases, I can make 4 SCVs, like 4.5, like 2 SCVs per command center plus like another half of an SCV, which is 30 seconds because it's a 12-second thing. So it's 12, 24, 36. This is where I'm kind of going with that. So you could get 4 of those while the command center was lifted, and then you land it, and you could basically crank out the last 4 in another probably like 20, 30 seconds. So if you want to just make it super easy math-wise, you could just say add a minute to that. So you, with the attack you received, you should be done making economy by 9 minutes while getting all in like that. And right now you're at 12:15 and you're still 15 off. So I would say it's definitely not like 15 SCVs off. It's definitely, and that's definitely not like a situation where it's like, oh, this is acceptable because you got attacked early. It's definitely something that you should be like, okay, I definitely got to watch my command center usage and maybe go to that 3 white box thing for now. And then as I level up as a player and I get better at multitasking, drop it back to 2, blah, blah, blah. And try to really force yourself to check. Because that is your biggest glaring weakness as a player right now. Watching your gameplay. Because I'm like, as me watching this, what I'm thinking is your factories are kind of late. And you have a base. You should have another base right now as well. Your expansion count is a little low, so like your command center count is a little bit lower than desired. Your factory count is a little lower than desired, and you are having availability of max supply, which that's nice. But you're still making more depots, so that's maybe like a overreaction of making depots or something, but in general, it's one of these things where it's just like everything just feels a little late, and it's like, why is that happening? And it's really because of your SCVs, because your money's fine. Like anyone else would look at this game and go, well, you're spending your money, so that doesn't look that bad. Like you don't have 4,000 resources, but it's because you're not actually giving yourself enough money to have either. You're not generating as fast as you should be. So if you were if let's say we were playing a micro game or like a micro macro, we're playing Archon mode, and I'm like, I'm gonna make all the economy, you make the military. If that was happening and I was making a proper economy, you actually would have like 5,000 minerals in the bank right now, and it's because you're just not generating as fast as you should be.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing you should work on, and if you do fix that, you're gonna be like, holy fuck, I'm like dominating everyone I play against. Because instead of being like, I'm gonna attack this guy at 13 minutes, you're gonna attack him at 10:30, and he's gonna have so much less shit, compared to those two time frames.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think he sent in battle cruisers, but at that point I was confident in the fact that I had other command centers, and I did go start a 5th on the bottom. I was just like, no, I'll trade you.
I think it's totally fine that you counterattacked, because if you defended this, all that would have happened is he would have went like, hey, I'm going into airspace, and then you just fly somewhere else, right? And you're like, okay. So I think the fact that you counterattacked, as long as you're in high impact payload, definitely want to be in high impact payload. Because
I have seen the effects of forgetting to put that in, and I have seen the effects of when you do it. I think there was another game, guy had he had 12 carriers or something ignorant, and versus the Thors, and the Thors just said bye-bye.
Yeah, just to put it into perspective of number, a high impact payload Thor will, to a battlecruiser, okay? A battlecruiser right here, if we look at where is his battlecruisers at? There they are, right there.
I think I was bringing him back.
He's got 5 armor, okay? That's even worse for you. But just because he's got the 2 armor upgrades and they have 3 armor passive. So a explosive Thor, which is what they're in right now, as you can see, the missiles are coming out, right? Yeah. An explosive Thor will hit a battlecruiser for 8 damage, because it's not light, it's definitely a heavy unit. So it does 8 damage, that's the number it goes off of, times 4. But it gets mitigated by 5. So it's doing 3 times 4 damage. So you're doing 12 damage each volley to a fucking battlecruiser, and it takes 2 seconds, a little over 2 seconds to do that. So 12 damage, 2 seconds later. 12 damage, 2 seconds later. Blah, blah, blah. They're hitting about as weak as like Marines would hit the BC4 right now. Yeah. But if you had him in high impact payload has an attack speed of like 0.8, and it does like 35 damage. So you can basically get almost like 3 hits off in the same time as that. Definitely 2, maybe almost 3. We'll just say even 2, okay? Just it's 100% faster doing 2 attacks than it is doing 1 with the explosive payload. Because again, I think it's like 0.8. But the explosive payload is like 35. So it'd be like 35, 35, but it would get mitigated by 5 still. So it's like 30, 30. So in less time, you'd be doing fucking like 60 damage to a BC, as opposed to it's actually probably even more than 40 damage too with upgrades, because you have upgrades. Long story short, you'd be doing like 4 times the amount of damage to a fucking battlecruiser with high impact, and you have more range. High impact payload gives you 11 range instead of 10, so you'd be shooting them even further away. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think even after, I was gonna say, I think even after they do that, because I think he sends one away or runs, and he builds another one later on. Yeah. I mean, he surrenders pretty shortly. But I did swap a couple, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not in high impact, because I don't even think I was paying attention too much to it. I just kind of shifted.
No, for sure. And generally speaking, if you're not going to pay attention, 100% of the time, go high impact payload, because the only situation that explosive payload is better than high impact in is if your opponent has mass mutas. Because
I think I'd leave it if I see that I'm against a Zerg, just in case.
Well, even then, I would say it's actually worth it to just go high impact if you're not going to watch it, because if they have like Broodlords or something like it's so much worse against Broodlords. And the thing about, let me say it like this: the thing about high impact versus explosive is when you need high impact, it's like 4 times better than explosive. It's way fucking better. But if you need explosive and you're in high impact, it's like twice as good. It's not even like that much better. The only time you could argue that that explosive is like amazing is if your opponent missed micros and they ball their units up while over your Thors, and then it just gets this crazy fucking hit. But the thing that's crazy, the thing that's crazy about the high impact though is a high impact payload Thor will still kill one Thor will kill one muta in like fucking 2 seconds. So in like if there's like 30 mutas, that's a large muta count, and let's say you have 12 Thors and there's like 30 mutas, you will kill like 12 of the mutas before they even get to the Thors. Or like 10 of them or something. You'll kill a lot because some of the Thors might shoot the same muta, but you'll kill a fucking load. Like a lot of the mutas will die before they even make contact with the Thor. And I guarantee, if you have similar supply investment of Thor to muta, so if the Zerg has like 60 supply in muta and you have like 50 supply in Thor, you will fucking dominate the mutas either way if you're in high impact or in explosive. But when you're in high impact versus everything else, it actually makes the Thor actually useful, as opposed to you will lose a lot to a lot of units if you stay in explosive versus a lot of different kinds of units. So if you don't want to look at it, I would say always go high impact. And then if you physically see, oh, my opponent's using crazy amounts of mutas right now, make a mental switch to go, okay, now I'll go explosive. But definitely try never to make your default explosive, because that's so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, especially once you start getting the math in there, just actually using the numbers, you're like, that does make more sense.
Like I almost want to like go into a game example right now and show you, just because I think a visual would make you go, holy fuck. Like
I think when that Thor died, I was like, I thought my Thor with because I was working on like 3 Thor, I was like, shouldn't that have killed it? And then I converted it, and then I mean that Thor with what? 10% health just runs down that battle cruiser.
Just for fun, I kind of want to show this to you just for a quick second, because I think this would blow your mind. If you might like, I think seeing is believing, and I know you agree with me, but I just want to. This would take probably 30 seconds. It's fucking insane. But yeah, like the game is over. If you fix the macro, the SCV part of it, and like you do the other things we talked about with like positioning and how you proceed your build, that'll help a lot. And just so it's not confusing as well, I'm definitely going to record. I'm recording this because I'm streaming, and I'll edit it out and I'll send it to you, so you can rewatch this whole coaching lesson as many times as you want, so you don't have to like memorize everything.
That's awesome.
Just to make your life 1,000 times easier. But now check this out. So upgrades for BC was 2 armor, and then upgrades for your Thor was 1 weapon. Right there. And then, so this battlecruiser flies in, and this is what your Thors were in right before. It's just like chilling. Thing lives for a while. It's just flying around your fucking shit. Blah, blah, blah. This thing is going to live. You could make your own guesstimation on this. I would say this BC is going to take about 30 seconds to die. Roughly. It's actually like killing some of the Thor as well. Like, it's actually going to fucking kill some of the Thor.
Pretty good, yeah.
And it's even taking longer.
Which is as good decrease the time or increase the time.
Exactly.
To get it.
Now it's like, I would say probably like 50 seconds to kill this shit. And it's brutal. That's a rough one. Yeah. But now if you just high impact it, just look at the difference here.
It's so silly.
It's not even fucking close. And then last one, I just want to show you one more.
Sure.
Terran, get like 5 Thors, and then Zerg.
With like the mutas.
Yeah. So now we'll do like again similar supply. Or sorry, I did too many mutas, so we'll do like equal supply investment roughly. 2 more supply in muta than there is in Thor, which is very real for a real game. If you're going Hellbat Thor, you're gonna have a lot. So 2 more mutas, 2 more supply in muta. And now we're going to A-move these guys on the muta, and they're going to ball up. They're going to get some good missile shots on the Thor. You lose 1 Thor, 2 Thor. A 3rd one might die. Obviously, if the guy's not microing, then it might not die. If he is microing, he might kill it. Another Thor dies. Let's say he clicks that one. 4 Thors die. So you lose like half your Thors, right? And that's in the mode that's supposed to be what you're in versus muta. But now we're going to go high impact payload. And it's not even going to be like, you're not going to be like, wow, the mutas are so much better now. Like, it's going to be very comparable. It's not even going to be close to like the difference of like how bad it was for the battlecruiser version. 1 Thor dies, 2 Thor die, 3 Thor die. before Thor's die. You see what I mean? That's like the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not actually like it's not even a mandatory thing that you need to be explosive because it's very like Thors are still good. This mode is just ridiculous. That's all it really is. It does so much it has a 0.9 attack speed. I said 0.8, so it was close. But it's just really good. That's just the point I'm trying to make. And that the mutas are the only time explosive is better. Because Phoenix would be another arguable one that you would say is better, but like no one's gonna go Phoenix versus Thor. Because you physically can't pick a Thor up with a Phoenix, so like it's like why would you ever do that versus Mass Thor? Yep. Anyways, I guess for really quickly, let's do like just because we are over time right now, but I don't really care. If you'd like, I could look at like maybe the DT Rush one super fast, just do a really quick run through of it if you would like.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was one of those ones where I felt like I was starting strong, and then it's just like at what point how do I was like, I just think that was a GG.
Yeah.
I'm just like, damn, I hate GTs.
So I'll kind of like X4 this and just go through it really quickly. And we'll see how the opener goes for you. But I definitely think, like I was saying before, if you just kind of clean up the opener a lot, that's going to change your the whole fucking dynamic of all of your games. Because you're going to be hitting these timers where it's like, wow, why am I always so much stronger than everybody? Like, I'm just macroing, but you're not really macroing right now. You're definitely missing the beat a lot of times. Like right there. That command center, like I'm glad you made the command center, or the SCV, or the orbital, sorry, is what I'm trying to say. I'm glad you made the orbital before you resumed SCV production. That made me, that's great. But your barracks is down at 127. Your SCV pops out at 129. And then you're chilling until like 139, 138, 139. That's like 10 seconds of like just nothing. That's almost a full SCV that could have popped out if you wanted to make one. But like it's just a lot of weight. Like shit like that is why you're gonna fucking. And it like I will say this too. This is so fucking real. This is why I stress this shit so much. Every second in the game, the current second you're on is more important than the next second that's about to happen. When it comes to economy in StarCraft. So from 0 to 1 is more important than from 1 to 2. From 1 to 2 is more important than 2 to 3. Blah, blah, blah. Every second is so fucking valuable, and it becomes less valuable over time in terms of economy, because once you set the pace of your build, it's like set in stone. Like you can't just be like, well, my build kind of slowed down pretty heavily in the first 3 minutes, and now I'm going to speed up. But you've already set the pace that your build is slow from that point on. Like you have a slow build now, and that's like if that happens to you, there will be games where it's like you'll scratch your head when it's over and be like, how the fuck do I beat this? And a lot of times that could just be because you didn't go fast enough. You just lost to your fucking the time that you needed.
Yeah.
All right.
Our SCVs are under attack.
And then. Okay, speeding up.
Command center upgrade complete. Add-on complete.
Okay, factory. Da.
Command center upgrade complete.
All right.
So I've definitely had issues on this map before because you have such a big opening area.
Sure.
Where it's just like I was like, I'm gonna go toss that barracks over there.
Add-on complete.
Yeah. No, I think that's fine. I would say that I don't. I would say do that after add-on always. It's definitely not priority over add-on. But once you get like your reactor out, that's fine. I think that's totally fine then. And then if you want to continue doing that process as well, like I was saying, similar to what I said last game, spread your depots out as well. Instead of putting them always behind all your mineral lines, maybe guard your walls and then spread them around the perimeter of your base. And then you can also spread them around the map to give you vision too. Depot spread is definitely a great tool to use too. But I don't think the way you use the barracks right now when you need depots on the ramp, that's fine. I think that's a good thing to do. Just don't forego an add-on and then put the barracks there and then be like, I'll make a fucking factory reactor. Okay.
Yeah, I think I've actually done because we discussed previously when we were watching the other one that the
Mhm.
barracks, like where I build the tech
Yeah.
on the barracks before I even start the factory, where it finishes so quick, I'll just pick it up
Yeah.
and I'll pick it up and move it, and I'll start building the factory on the tech lab, not like for the first factory, just because I did the tech way too fast and delayed building the factory.
Yeah. Okay. So, hear me out on this one. Okay. This is what I would say. If you're again, if you actually scouted, like, well, barracks is flying in his base. Again, if you ever want to scan, if your thought process is going to be, I'm going to scan his base this game, just fucking go build a barracks and scout his base. It's just more efficient, and it gives you way more time to see what you're seeing, and it'll be way more comfortable for you. You can drop that mentality later on if you get like really high level later on and start trying to do like standard shit. But for now, that'll be. I guarantee when you do it like 10 times, you'll probably like send me a message on Discord being like, okay, Vibe, this barracks scouting shit is fucking OP. I don't know why I wasn't doing it before. But yeah, do that instead, okay? And then I would say, so if you saw it coming, just first of all, it'd be easier to deal with, right? You're like, oh, okay, I'm mentally prepared for this. But now, obviously, that's not happening, so it happens without you knowing about it. And the guy shows up in your base, and he's...
I definitely need to... Scouting is one of those things I'm just starting to kind of like...
Sure.
Now I need to incorporate it, because if I would have... I think if I would have gone and seen that he had built like a dark shrine, I would have immediately like put a couple towers around the edge, just so I can...
Well, even then, honestly, you don't even need to do that. I was going to say, the best reaction to this right now would be to generally center your tech in an area. So, like, these two buildings should have been built... Like, and you should always think about this as well in the future. Just always think that this is a possibility. Try not to spread out your initial tech too much. So, like, always put maybe your armory and your NG bay behind a mineral line every game. So that that way, if this does happen, it's not compromised. That'd be because if the barracks is compromised, you can just lift it. Who cares? But if this shit's compromised, it just dies. And then don't try to defend the second he's in your base. Don't try and defend that. Like, let it happen, and instead, let him have this area of your base for now, because you have tanks, and you can just keep macroing, keep producing, and just let him come to you. And you could like slowly like crawl tank, like build a new tank, put it forward, build a Thor, have the Thor poke it, like shoot the prism or something. And if he like runs towards your Thor and he runs in turret range, suddenly tanks start blowing up the DTs or shit like that, right? Like basically let him come to you instead of you going to him. And the best way you could defend this would be definitely not scanning right now. The second you realize DTs are in your base, and if you have really like keen eye, you can actually see the ground kind of flickering right now, which means he's warping in invisible units. Anyways, that's like who cares? But letting your army regroup right now is mandatory. It's number one. I would say again.
I didn't unsiege.
No. I actually think you don't even need to unsiege. I think that's actually fine. I think at most maybe unsiege this middle tank and move it like there. And the only reason why, again, you protect the radius of your base again. So like if he comes up here to fucking hit your main, the tank is there. If he goes over here to hit this area, your tank is there. If he goes over here to hit this area, your tank is there. And then I would say maybe move this tank as well to like there, like somewhere like a little bit like less exposed, or maybe like even like right there, so it could also still cover the doorway, just so it's not so far out by itself.
Yeah.
And what you'd want to do is you'd want to just gradually increase your fucking defense, like increase where your units are defending. And this would be a great game too if you had a Cyclone, because you could lock onto the prism and just run in a circle and kill the prism. And
Cyclones have decent range too.
They have really good range. Yeah. As soon as they attack, like they have 6 range, and as soon as they attack, it like doubles with the lock-on radius. And you could just run in a circle and avoid getting hit by the DTs. And if the prism's dead, then the DTs can't really do much. They're kind of fucked, especially if you have turrets. And I'd say the best way you could defend it is now also building a turret like you are here, and build a turret like right there. And then don't scan unless you see the DTs coming this direction to fuck this tank up. And then if you see the DTs on their way before the turret's done, scan to like guarantee the turret goes up. Don't like just scan. Like I think the mistake you made here was thinking that you're going to go attack this now, or scanning just to react to, oh, what's there? Oh, DTs.
Yeah.
Because you can't even you can't even like do anything about it.
No, I don't think my 2 level 1 Hellbats were going to do much against the 5 DTs.
Well, not only that, even like let's say you actually thought I'm going to kill this with Hellbats. Even then, you scanned before, like when the Hellbats were like there. So like by the
Yeah.
time the scan actually, or by the time the Hellbats get there, the scan's going to be almost ready to deplete and go away. So like you arrive, you start hitting them, and now that first scan is like going away right now, essentially. And now scan number 2 is down, but you scanned where they were rather than what you need to protect. And now they're actually out of fucking range again. So like again, letting him come to you rather than going to him is the mindset you need to adopt here. You need to like be willing to let him have this part of your base, because ideally if your tech isn't there, that's wonderful. But if it is, you can just rebuild it. But if it's not there, that's great. And then if your barracks is here, you can just lift it off. And then you can retake this area of your base in a minute once you actually have your base okay. And then you're still building units and building army, but you're protected, and now you can re-protect. You can like shove him out of your base. Because you can't hit any part of your base if it's all protected. But you're creating openings for him by chasing him around and trying to like, you're trying to like scan so far forward, and then now suddenly you're out of scans and he's actually on parts that need to be protected that are now getting compromised.
Yeah, this game was 100% just one of the ones where, like, I felt like I was doing pretty good. I was starting to get that third command center quickly, which I do have a habit of not getting.
Yeah.
Stop focusing on building new command centers.
Yeah.
But then I was like Dark Templars panic.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this one I think is like cut and dry. Like if you just again had more macro in terms of like your opener, as was your other game. If you clean that up, this is a common problem for everybody. It's not just you. This is why people are not like in Diamond. If you just really clean that up, that make that a big focus, and do the things we talked about last game, and then maybe this game adopt this mindset to a lot of different kinds of all-ins. Especially DT. DTs are the one that is kind of tricky because it's stealth. So
yeah,
definitely got to like incorporate the let him come to you with turrets mentality as opposed to just charge him. Because another thing too is if you, let's say you do have enough units to attack him, and you're like, I'll totally kill that. What if he just loads up the prism and flies away and wastes your scan and comes back after the scan, and then he does it again, and then he does it again, and you're like, fuck, I'm out of scans. So just know, scanning is only the last resort when you don't have a turret. Scanning should be defensively against DTs when you need to build a turret there, when that's an area of the base that needs to be turreted. But if you don't have a turret there and he's attacking that spot, that's when you scan. You don't chase him to scan, because if you do that, you will get run around a circle and just waste all your energy.
Yeah, I had another game. I think it went a little bit later, and rather than just get in the habit of like burning out scans, I was just like, all right, well, here I'm gonna do. I build a starport, build a Raven, and then set the Raven to follow, the army units.
A Raven as well. I don't think you should rush a Raven in this situation. A Raven is something you could definitely do eventually. I think a Raven would be something that would be ideal if like you needed to like go attack his base. But like if you're defending your base, you definitely could just like make it work without it. Like for instance, let's say you want to take a third base and you're protected, and now you want to take a third. You can move out and take your third, and if he ever intercepts you on the way to move out, you could scan to defend yourself. But if he's like over there, don't just run down and chase him and scan him. Just go to your third with what you want to take to your third. Build a turret there, and if he lets you build a turret, you build a turret. If he doesn't let you build a turret, you scan him and force a turret.
Okay. I played this game like 5 hours ago, so I didn't actually get the opportunity to. Could you click on the view since you just happen to have it up and I'm watching?
Sure. What do you want to
see? Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to see how much he had committed to the
TvT
thing. And
no, it's a one base all in. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I would have just stayed a little bit calm, because I definitely could feel myself like DTs, scan, freak out.
Yeah.
It could have been like that game we just watched.
Yeah, like does that make sense to where I was talking about defend with scans rather than attack with scans?
Yeah.
Okay, because that is literally you would crush him if you did that, because then your energy goes so much further, and you could preserve a little bit more of your command center energy, like maybe cool down on the mules a little bit, and then just save up some scans, build up your army, and once you're at that point where you're like, his army is so fucking small, and like maybe again that's when you don't scan, but you take a Hellion and you go, do you have an expansion? Where is your base? And you're not too worried about it because all your bases are protected by a couple turrets and your army. It's like just scattered around your bases. And you're like, oh my God, he's on one base. And then you're like, okay, well now I'm at fucking 150 supply. He's at probably like 70, 80. And then you're like, maybe I'll just make a Raven. Maybe I make two Ravens. One Raven to attack and one Raven just to like guard like my base. And in case he like ever blinks on a turret, I can have a Raven, or if I don't have a scan, it's like a failsafe to defend yourself with, if you wanted. But you don't have to, obviously, because I would highly recommend saving some scan energy versus a DT rushing player. But yeah, again, definitely don't think in this situation rushing the Raven is the answer, because it's really not. Because if you do that, you're not going to have an army, because it's so expensive to rush a Raven when you're getting this tied up as well that early. Yeah. If you just make army, scatter it, turret around it, and scan to set turrets up, he can't do shit. He's like, oh, okay, I can't go there, I can't go here, I can't go there. And then suddenly it's his game, and from his perspective, and he's like, fuck, my opponent's on like 3 bases, and I am not stopping it. I guess I'll expand, or I all in now. And then if he all ins and it fails, then it will. If he attacks you with like 70 supply and you have 150, you're gonna just be like, oh, he attacked me, question mark. I just killed all of it. And you'll be like, okay, I guess he's dead now. That's what would happen if you didn't let the DTs start like running in circles around you.
Yeah, I panic. Yeah, I do like the idea, because I just not necessarily better placement, but a better, calmer reaction.
Yeah.
When something like this happens, because like you said, I could see now how I could just take like one of those sieges and move it up.
Yep.
And just continue focusing, because I had already finished that 3rd command center, and he has no idea what he's doing. He's so focused on getting everything with these DTs. I could just.
And I really
start building everything at that 3rd base.
I really think in this situation too, if you make a Cyclone, that is like an S tier like reaction to what his build is. It puts so much pressure on him if you have a Cyclone just popping on that Prism, because you could literally, if he like is warped and like if he's like there, and let's say he doesn't react to it until you start locking onto it, he'll unphase the Prism and start trying to run away, and you could run to the edge of the base and kill it before it gets out of vision. Like guaranteed. A Cyclone can kill a Prism in probably like 5 seconds without the upgrade that makes it do more damage. Like it just would fucking farm the Prism. So, and that would just, if the Prism dies too, that this guy, not only number one, he has to babysit his units so much harder, which makes it really hard for him to macro during this and like actually expand. So it puts him into like this super all-in now to make his aggression more effective. And then on top of that, if it dies, it's over. Like you just have the next like 90 seconds of a freebie where you're like, I can breathe again. I don't have a Prism trying to like land on my units and shit. All right, man. Well, do you have any final questions about stuff we talked about today that may have been on your mind?
I really kind of I like just kind of listening to you go off. It was like an encyclopedia of everything in StarCraft. So I just kind of let you do your thing, and I felt like I was watching a YouTube video in the background.
Thanks, man. Well, like I said, I will definitely, I'll probably have this to you by tomorrow, if not at the latest the day after, because I gotta like edit it out and send it to YouTube, and then I'll send you the YouTube video. But it'll be from beginning to end, everything we just talked about. So it'll be like probably an hour and a half, and then and then you can watch that whenever you want. And just definitely a lot of I would definitely recommend, just as like if you wanted me to give you like future homework for yourself, I would say to definitely watch this maybe a few times. Because I guarantee, like doing it right now, there's probably a couple things that stand out to you that you forgot a lot of other stuff, where it's just kind of like so much information overload. You just kind of like focus on what you can focus on. And then if you watch it again, same thing will happen, but like give it a few times. And as you soak up and absorb and like digest some of the information and apply it, other shit will actually make more sense. And you'll be like, oh, fuck yeah, no, like I feel it now. I actually like, this is, this definitely like is working for me, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I would highly recommend watching it a couple times and then just really trying to apply everything we talked about, especially in the macro stage, because right now you're playing games that are back and forth, whatever. But if you actually get to the point to where, and you're like Gold League, right? But if you get to the point to where your macro is just fucking clean, you will play a Gold League player and be like, how the fuck does this guy even have a chance? Like you will just have so much more than he does every time. And you just A move and you're like, oh, every time I attack, I just win. Like I never lose anymore. And then that's when you're like, oh wow, I'm platinum now. I'm diamond.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was nice meeting you. And
no, yeah, it was awesome. It's really cool that you do this still.
Yeah.
I know some people. I think StarCraft Star is a pretty big community, and I'd like to see what kind of stuff we sneak out at BlizzCon this year. Someone said something about StarCraft 3.
I'm gonna let you don't want. I'm not the guy you want to talk to about that. I'm gonna let you live in that world for a little longer.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate it, man. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, much love, man. Just as long as you're having fun with the game, that's all that matters.
I
And
do, yeah. It's just one of the. It was like the first game for me that came out like because I was like a Crash Bandicoot, Jack and Dexter, Ratchet and Clank,
Yeah.
like on the Xbox, PlayStation, and then this came out I think in like 2010, and I had just like I was in high school and I had just gotten a MacBook,
Yeah.
which was my ideal gaming computer at the time, and I was like, this is an interesting. People play games on the computer as well. Let's go.
yeah, no, it's yeah, definitely. It's fucking
But
fun.
I never felt confident enough to play online. It was always just the campaign because I did love the story of it.
Yeah.
And then my buddy sent me one of your videos, and I was like, this explains a lot of things and is awesome. So
No, for sure. Shout out to your buddy. Thanks for watching, and yeah, thanks for doing a coaching lesson, man. I'll edit it out and I'll send it to you later. But dude, have a good rest of your day, and thank you for doing it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm probably gonna have to check out that Mock Bellum too.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I highly recommend. That game's been a lot of fun for me lately. But I will see you tomorrow, man. Or I mean, I'll see you.
All right.
I'll see you later. good luck, dude. It's like I'm ending
See
a
you tomorrow
stream.
as
Yeah,
well.
it's like I'm ending a stream right there. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, take it
Bye.
easy, dude. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for watching the coaching lesson. People on stream, thanks for being here. I hope you guys learned something from that yourselves. Something you can apply to your own gameplay. And yeah, I look forward to continuing doing. I know I do a lot less coaching nowadays, but I look forward to doing more of it, like in Stormgate and stuff like that. So, thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it is. Until then, good luck in whatever you're gonna do and your own games. And peace, guys. Take it easy.